But someone that does this in spiritual matters, that's unbelievable. This is not only...
Welcome to Prism of Torah with Rabbi Saf Aaron Prisman, engaging Divrei Torah, packed with stories and practical insights. Find us wherever you get your podcasts or at prismoftorah.org.
Shalom Uvracha. In this week's Parshas Eikev, Moshe Rabbeinu addresses the Jewish people and says, "Now Israel, what does Hashem, your God, ask of you? Only to fear Hashem, your God, to go in all His ways, and to love Him, and to serve Hashem, your God, with all your heart and with all your soul." In short, Ma Hashem shoel mi'imcha ki im li'ira oisoi. What is already HaKadosh Baruch Hu asking from Him? The main idea is to fear Hashem. And then he mentioned some other aspects of Avodas Hashem later on. What's interesting is that the Gemara in Menachos 43b brings down the brisa in the name of Rabbi Meir. And he says an unbelievable drasha that has a halachic ramification to our everyday. And he says, don't say the word ma Hashem mevakesh mimach, but switch the word ma by adding one letter, an aleph, in the middle, and say mea, 100. And from here we learn the important idea of ensuring that you say 100 blessings a day. Now, if you think about it, the Torah has infinite wisdom, and hence, we have to ask the following three questions. First of all, what is unique about this pasuk? That the main theme is fear of Hashem, Yirat Shamayim, that from here is appropriate to learn the obligation of saying 100 brachos a day. Second of all, the word we are changing is the word ma, and we're switching it to become mea. Now, we don't just play games over here. There must be some deep idea that the word ma represents something, that it is appropriate, that it is being changed to 100, and from this word we derive the idea of 100 brachos. And the third question is, why 100? Can't it be 90 brachos, 110? What is unique about the word, about the number 100, that we should say 100 blessings a day? There must be some hint to something, to some deep idea behind all of this. The Divrei Yoel addresses two of these three questions. And he says a remarkable idea that I think we should try to implement in our own lives. He says, it's not true to think of fear as trembling and being scared all the time. That's not what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants of us. He wants us to develop a type of fear which involves constant awareness of being watched, that we know Hashem's running the world. In fact, we know that there's two different levels of Yirat Shamayim. The lower level is to fear. The higher level is awe, to be in awe of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Melech Malchi Amlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the King of all kings. We should want to do what He wants us to do, and we realize He's running the world and He's watching our every move. The Divrei Yoel explains, we know that in Lashon HaKodesh, the world was created in the letters of Lashon HaKodesh. Every time you have two roots that are similar, there has to be some sort of correlation. And that is what the Divrei Yoel says over here. If you look at the root of the word fear, yirah, it's very similar, not exactly the same, but very similar to the root of the word lirot, to see. And that is what Hashem wants of us, to always feel like we're being watched, that Hashem is watching our every move. Based on this idea, it actually makes a lot of sense why it's from this pasuk that the theme is Yirat Shamayim, this positive fearing of Hashem, having awareness that Hashem is watching everything we do, that we learn and derive from this pasuk the obligation of saying 100 blessings a day. When you say 100 blessings a day, it is a constant reminder that everything we have is from Hashem. You're about to eat an apple, you say a bracha, you realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving you the bracha. You wake up in the morning, you thank Hashem for getting your neshama back, which is not a bracha, but you say the brachas later on in Birkas HaShachar. Thank you for allowing me to walk again, for being able to do all kinds of things. And when you live with 100 blessings a day, it is a security net to ensure that you have this awareness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching everything we do. And with this, we ensure that we don't waste our time, this unbelievable present Hashem gave us, this life in this world that will be a ticket to Olam Haba. It'll ensure that we realize we're always being watched and will behave accordingly and earn Olam Haba. The second question the Divrei Yoel addresses is, why is it derived from the word ma? What's unique about the word ma? And he says a phenomenal idea. He says ma, if you go back to Shmois, Perek Tet Zayin, pasuk Zayin, when Bnei Yisrael complained to Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron about the situation, then they both say, Va'anachnu ma, the same word, ma. Ma shetalinu aleinu. Why are you complaining to us? Who are we, bichlal? We have nothing. Meaning, it's the word ma, what? What are we? We're nothing. Like, why do you think we can do anything? Daven to Hashem. Because Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron, they had a very high level of humility. And ma represents that humility. This too is related to the 100 brachos, and that's why it makes a lot of sense that the word ma, representing humility, from this word we derive by adding the letter aleph, 100 brachos a day, because by saying 100 brachos a day, we are able to attain this humility, because it's a constant reminder to us to acknowledge that everything we have in this world is a gift from Hashem. And in turn, we can reach this idea of humility, which is inevitable to ensure we have a high level Yirat Shamayim and realize we're dependent on Hashem and everything's coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The last question we raised is, why 100? That, the Sfas Emes answers. And he says, 100, you know what was 100? The Adanim, the sockets that the foundation of the Mishkan, which was the biggest vessel to attain the Shechina, the divine presence, the infrastructure of that whole building, the sockets, the Adanim were 100. Perhaps the reason we say 100 brachos a day, not 95 and not 102, is because 100 represents this concept of building an infrastructure, a foundation where the Shechina will dwell. And when we do that, we will be zoiche, like the Parsha in Truma. We know hints to us that the Shechina is not only going to dwell in the Mishkan, but each one of us is a Mishkan. V'shachanti betocham, I will dwell, the Shechina will dwell not only in the Mishkan, but in every one of Klal Yisrael. So using the Divrei Yoel and the Sfas Emes, we managed to answer the three questions. Why is it that to say 100 brachos a day is derived from the pasuk about Yirat Shamayim? Why is it coming from the word ma, and why 100? It's all a matter of having awareness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, watching our every move, which is the highest form of Yirat Shamayim, and 100 brachos ensures we do that. And that would also bring us to the word ma, that represents and hints to the idea of what Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron said, the way they lived their lives, which was humility. And that is the way to realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the world. I would like to end with a story that I witnessed in one of the yeshivas I went to in Bnei Brak. There was one of the bachurim, his name was Moshe. I wasn't so close to him. He carried a small notebook everywhere, pausing to write something before every snack, every time he went to the washroom throughout the day. His chavrusa even a bit laughed at him and mocked him. He said, "Oh, he's the accountant. What are you calculating all the time? What are you writing there all the time?" One day, a gvir, a wealthy Baal Tshuva, visited the yeshiva, searching for a chavrusa for his son. The Rosh Yeshiva introduced him to several iluim, they're called, star students that learned on a very high level. But this person, the gvir, he seemed to be unimpressed. Then he joined us for lunch. He notices Moshe writing in his notebook before he ate. He was very intrigued by that. He said, "Well, what is that?" So Moshe was a bit embarrassed. He said, "I track my brachos. I want to ensure I reach 100 daily with kavanah, not just mumbling them." You could see the man was like, his eyes widened and he was very impressed. Show me the notebook, the man he requested. Moshe hesitated, he was embarrassed. But Moshe took it, insisted that he really wants to see it out. He saw all kinds of comments he wrote. "Oh, on this date I rushed Asher Yatzar," which is the blessing we say after a person goes to the washroom. "I didn't have 100% kavanah when I said the bracha before I ate the apple, I felt like I was rushed." The man couldn't believe it. He saw how many hundreds of comments like this he wrote on a daily basis. And he said to him, "This is unbelievable. I have never seen a person that applies and puts so much time into optimizing things when it comes to spirituality. I've seen it in my workplace, in the company I own. I have people that I pay to do this. But someone that does this in spiritual matters, that's unbelievable. This is not only the chavrusa I want for my son, but this is the son-in-law I want. And indeed, this person, Moshe, married this the Gvir's daughter. Yirat Shamayim, that we all realize how important it is to ensure that we are living with 100% awareness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the world, is watching our every move. In fact, He is the one that created the system of Olam Hazeh for us in order to have Olam Haba and not to be embarrassed for the unlimited reward in Yirat Hashem we're all going to get in Olam Haba. Have a good Shabbos.
This concludes another episode of the Prism of Torah. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something valuable. If you did, please subscribe to the podcast and give a 5-star rating. You can also find this podcast wherever you get your podcasts or our own website, prismoftorah.com, where we have a full archive of all our past episodes. We would like to thank Yona Vefa for the recording equipment and Eli Podcast Productions for handling all our post-podcast productions. Join us next week for another enlightening conversation on the Prism of Torah.